Welcome to the Equity Teacher Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rachael Mahmood. In this podcast, we'll dive into the stories, the voices, and the expertise of incredible teacher leaders who are making a difference through the equity work they do in their classrooms and their communities.
Welcome back to another episode of Equity Teacher Leader. I am super excited because I am joined today by Milken Award winner, Miss Jessica Wentz. It's just like news that's hot off the press right now. She was just named, how many days ago was it, Jessica?
The end of January. So like 2 weeks ago.
My gosh, two.
Yeah.
You're coming off of this award, nice and hot right now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And then I definitely want to jump into this award and what it's meant for you.
Yeah. So I teach first grade at Lincoln Grade School, which is in Washington, Illinois. And I have been teaching first grade for 14 years now. And I actually teach first grade in the exact same classroom that I was in as a first grade student. So total full circle. My son is actually in first grade at this school. My husband went to this school. So definitely a full circle teacher moment to now be a teacher in this classroom. So yeah.
That is absolutely crazy. Do you ever have like moments where you're sitting in the classroom teaching when all of a sudden like a memory from first grade just like bounces into your mind?
A little. Actually, I feel like first grade was the only year that I truly didn't love my teacher and didn't love learning as much. So sometimes, it's kind of ironic that now I'm a first grade teacher because it wasn't probably my most successful year as a student. Like I remember I had a lot of anxiety and my mom said I would go to the office and say I had tummy aches a lot. So kind of funny that it's not the year that I loved the most as a student, but I have loved it for 14 years and never wanted to teach another grade.
Wow, that is fascinating and definitely very interesting. I would think that being back in a classroom where I didn't have the best experiences, I might relive some of my trauma. For me, my first grade year was really tough too. I definitely had a teacher that was a little scary at times. Yeah. So crazy. Okay, so you grew up in the town that you're teaching in. You're back here teaching again, first grade, 14 years. 2 weeks ago, craziness erupted. Your name is all over the internet, this Milken Award winner. Tell us a little bit about the Milken Award and what that's been like for you.
Okay, yeah. So that day, we were told, we were sent an email saying that we were going to have this assembly because the state superintendent was coming. So make sure you dress nice, which thank goodness they said that because it was a Friday. I definitely would have been in my jeans. But, and then we walk in, we thought it was to celebrate student growth on like test scores. And there's the middle school jazz bands there, all these people from the community, people from the Board of Education. And it was just like, wow, news people. But I still got nothing of it. Like, yeah, look at all this. Like, yes, we should be celebrating them. This is amazing. And then to find out that it was all for me, I think I'm still coming down from the high and like the shock of it all. It was kind of overwhelming to have all the recognition. But it was so honoring. And then learning more about the Milken Award and what that means, that, it's a very confidential selection process I've learned. And they say that you can't be nominated for it. They find you. So just so honoring, but also exciting. I'm so passionate about collaborating with other teachers and now to have this broader network of teachers that I can collaborate with and reach out to kind of forever is really awesome. There was Milken winners there who had won in the past. And then afterwards, there was like a breakfast where I got to sit down and talk with all of them and kind of hear. They all had very different stories about kind of where they took this opportunity and what they did with it for education. So that was really inspiring and really exciting.
That is exciting. You're actually the Milken Award winner 2024, 2025, correct? Yeah. So I did interview Comfort Agbulo, who was the 2023, 2024 Milken Award winner. And she was raving about all the opportunities that she's experienced being a Milken Award winner, as well as all the resources that you're going to have at your disposal and the networking that are going to happen, just connecting with amazing teacher leaders across the country for your cohort of 24, 25. nominees, but then also, across the decades, right? As you said, or across the years of your Illinois Milken Award winners. So that's just incredibly amazing. So I know that, when I talked to you a little earlier when we were getting ready, talking about this podcast, and I was getting to know you, you shared with me this town that you grew up in. It's just outside of Peoria. And, this is the Equity Teacher Leader podcast. So we're talking about equity issues, injustice or inequity that we see in classrooms. And I thought it would be really interesting to talk a little bit about, some of the issues that are unique to rural communities. I think a lot of times when people talk about inequity in our educational system, they think Black, brown. They go right to students of color and they think, well, equity is about racial diversity. And we know equity is about any type of diversity that's creating injustice in our educational system. It's in all kinds of identities can face that disadvantage in our educational system. And one thing I've been coming to learn a lot about as I travel across the state as the Illinois Teacher of the Year, I see a lot of inequity in our rural communities. I thought it'd be really interesting. You're the first teacher from a more rural community that I've gotten a chance to interview at this podcast. So tell us a little bit about some of the experiences in inequity that you see that students from rural communities face.
Yeah, so Washington is, I would say, like semi-rural, a little suburban. We're, right outside, about 10 miles out to the east of Peoria, but very, very small town feel, a very tight-knit community, a lot of people that live here, grew up here, just a very small town feel. So I feel like we might not face some of the extreme challenges of really remote rural communities, but I would say that our students still experience some issues that are common to rural areas, like definitely limited access to specialized resources. We just don't have the budget that larger cities have. And specific, our town is a little unique that there's multiple school districts within just our one small town. So my specific district, we're the only grade school in the district. So just we're working with a very different budget than even our high school is working with, because it's just a small part of our town that's, funding our school. And so we definitely don't have the resources that larger cities have. And just, I also feel like our students' exposure to opportunities compared to students in larger cities is definitely different.
So that's really interesting. And thank you for that clarification, like rural versus semi-rural, right?
Yeah.
I honestly hadn't really thought of it in that context before. It's my suburban privilege lens that I'm looking at things for. If you're not in the suburbs, you're not the city, then I'm like, well, then you must be rural. But there are these communities in between that are semi-rural, maybe semi-suburban, and that's unique. And you actually started your teaching career in was it a Title I building, but it was like more diverse. It had a unique population for the area.
Yeah, it was a larger, definitely a larger city than Washington, and it was closer to Peoria. And it had 31 different languages spoken. So definitely more diverse in that aspect than here in Washington, which that is definitely not the case.
Yeah. So would you say that most of your diversity is around, income diversity, or most of the injustice that kids face is around income injustices, where you see students that may have more socioeconomic privilege than students who don't? And I think that something that's really interesting, we see that in the suburbs, we see that in the city too, and just how much expendable income your parents have can really limit the opportunities that students have inside their classrooms. You think about like how much things cost today on a parent's dime, field trips, what else, like school dances, like extracurricular activities, fundraisers. Think about all the papers that I unpacked for my own children's backpacks. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they need money for this, and now for this, and now for this. I was having a really interesting conversation with the superintendent, and I was saying, one exercise we should have our administrators doing is we should have them add up how much money we're asking families every, let's say, month to contribute and to know, like, between this fundraiser and this field trip and this PTA event and this activity, how much money are we asking from parents on this side every month? And we should at least know that number. Then we should think, is this number really reasonable for everyone?
Right. And even just like keeping track of it all, like how much we're reaching, like it's so hard to keep track of in a parent's brain, let alone, helping your kid with homework and all. Okay, tonight we're supposed to go do this fundraiser. Like even just the mental toll that it takes on families would be interesting how many times they're being asked.
And having to say no. Those of us that have been in situations where we haven't had the money to do everything that our children want to do, to be able to fully participate in school and all the extras creates belonging, right? Feelings of belonging. And when kids can't fully participate in all the extras in school because financial constraints, it can send them micro messages that they don't belong. And I know as a parent, it's heartbreaking when I have to tell my children no to a school activity because it's not in our budget. And every kid should be able to just show up and be able to participate fully in everything and take full advantage of all of the opportunities.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess kind of thinking sometimes when we don't have opportunities to do all of these things, we try to make school the magical place where kids can do stuff. But, you and I talked about that teacher who turned her classroom into an airplane and she had her students flying to China. She gave them the full experience, boarding passes, and checked their backpacks and served them little tray food and got the whole place decked out. And those kindergartners were super excited to have this immersive learning experience. But think back to your own education, like immersive learning experiences are amazing and they give opportunities to students who don't always get the opportunities to travel or to experience all of these different opportunities in their community right there in their classroom. So I know you do a lot of immersive learning experiences. Not only are they great for building background knowledge, but they're also great for making information sticky when we have all different types of learners in our classrooms. Tell us a little bit about some of those immersive learning experiences you do in your classroom.
Yeah. So one that comes to mind is we do a place value party. So in first grade, teaching about place value is kind of a foundational math skill that we work on a lot. And so at the end of kind of our first unit of talking about place value, we have a place value party. So I send home like a birthday invitation to all my kids and they, just looks like a traditional birthday invitation you'd get, RSVP by coming to school, where, when, what. And that kind of like piques their interest. Like, what is this? Why is she sending this home? Gets them excited to want to come back to school the next day. And then when they arrive, the whole room kind of looks like a birthday party. We've got tablecloths, balloons, gift bags, things that look like we're at a birthday party. And all day long, we do different math review stations that are all themed around a birthday party, but it's all birthday party themed. And we, the kids make place value prince and princess crowns that look like little birthday crowns. And they make a birthday cake using the 10s as their candles and the 1s as, the sprinkles on the cake. And we play lots of different games, like pin the nose on the clown, but they're practicing math the whole time they're doing it.
And they're probably motivated, right? Like, who doesn't want to go to a birthday party now? Face value party. Okay, here's how different fifth grade is in first grade. You are speaking to my place value heart. Because in fifth grade, we are still teaching place value, people. And I bet a school teacher out there or middle school math teacher that's like, in middle school, we are still teaching place. But I did a place value crime scene. And I took all these place value discs and I dumped them like in big pile. And some were upside down and some were right side up. And then I got caution tape from Amazon and I caution taped the area off. So they didn't know how many place value discs, what was the sum of all the place value discs on the table. And I said, that's the crime scene. And then today you guys have to become the detectives to solve this mystery. And we had all these different suspects, which were numbers in standard notation. And then we had all these different clues throughout the day. We had to estimate based on how many place value discs we could see that were flipped the right direction. We had different clues like if you add this number and this number or this number in word form, they are not the suspect. And the kids were like crossing off, like kind of like a logic puzzle, you know, they're figuring it out. But same idea, bringing the math to life, increasing the motivation, getting the hands-on for our hands-on learners, getting the experience for the kids who are experiential learners. Definitely. All right, what else you got for us? Give us an idea.
Another one that's kind of math themed is a measurement speedway.
Ooh.
So we teach kids to measure in first grade. This idea actually came to me after I had a birthday party for my son, and it was a race car themed. And afterwards, I had all these leftover decorations, and I was like, what am I going to do with all these? How can I use these in my classroom? So that's kind of where measurement speedway idea came. But the kids arrive, and, you know, I've got a racetrack going down. As soon as they walk in the door, they have to walk down the racetrack. I'm wearing the full race car driver outfit. Lots of, you know, finish line flags everywhere, checkered flags. And really, all day long, we just practice measuring. So kids, one of the activities they do is they have to like build a ramp, and they can build it at different heights, and then they get to let down 3 cars, and then they practice measuring how far each car went and kind of estimating which one they think will win the race, and then letting them go again. They can change how high their ramp is, and then just lots of practicing measuring. They don't even realize they're practicing measuring. They think they're playing with toys. You know, they're just having fun. You know, at different stations, they'll just like lots of just practice with measuring. This one specifically hooks, you know, some maybe reluctant learners.
They're testing, right? They're testing out. I mean, that's basically like basic engineering, right? Now testing out like how high the ramp is, how far the cars will travel. They're basically doing what engineers would do. They're doing what maybe mechanics might do, and they understand, like, is it the car that's impacting the distance, or is it the road? That's the difference between an engineer's job and a mechanic's job or a car designer's job. And so kind of seeing that's amazing. I love it.
And this one, we relate to kind of all the subjects. We do it all day long. For writing, we write about like, what would your dream car be? Where would you drive it to? We do a STEM activity where they have to use magnets to like draw a road, and then they use magnets to try to figure out how they can get their car to drive on the road. So some of the days, you know, we just do for that one subject for the activity, and sometimes we try to relate it across all of our subjects for the day. Another one, our district this year adopted CKLA, which is Core Knowledge Language Arts. It's a knowledge building ELA curriculum. So it's brand new this year, but it's been really exciting to kind of have a fresh slate of different topics that we're teaching about to kind of get some new ideas. And so that has really lended us to have some fun ideas. So we taught about the human body in first grade for about 4 weeks. And then we had a big doctor day. So
my gosh, what does a doctor day entail? I mean, we need to know.
Yeah, we had a local company donate hospital gowns, gloves, masks, feet covers, the whole deal. All the kids got to gown up. We made them little badges, you know, emergency room badges where they looked like staff of the hospital. And then each first grade classroom we transformed into like an operating room. And so in each room, they got to kind of rotate to each teacher's room and do a different activity. Mine was, I had made each first grade teacher like a life-size model of the teacher with her face and like body cut out. And they had to do surgery and cut out all the organs.
Oh my gosh.
Not about like body systems. And so they had to make sure they put the organs on their teacher correctly to put
my
all the body systems back together. But yeah, and each teacher kind of just thought of a different idea, and they rotated through the different operating rooms, and it was really fun.
That is amazing. Now, my parents are both physicians, and I often talk about how my dad's dream was that I became a doctor when I grew up. He was so much so, like, he was like, I will buy you a car if you're a doctor. And I was like, no, I'm going to be a teacher. And he's like, no, you become a teacher, I'll buy you a bicycle. Like, he did not want me to be a teacher. But yeah, he was really focused on me being a doctor. So when I became a teacher, my mom, who was much more liberal about whatever I wanted to be, I could be, she came in my classroom and I was teaching the digestive system. Same thing. She brought us the gloves, the hats, like all the fun things, but she brought like x-rays and things like that. But then she had like all these different symptoms, and the kids had to diagnose what was wrong with the patients. I mean, like this sent us their symptom cards, and like she would read them and the kids were all dressed up. And I remember like, they were like playing with the gloves and all that stuff. But, dreaming big, you put those clothes on, you can see yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
You wear those clothes, that could be, and that's another great reason why these immersive learning experiences, they teach kids not only about the content, but also how to dream into those types of careers. And, you had little engineers there, you had your car mechanics, you got your doctors. I do a mock trial every year. And like, I love doing the mock trial. We always put a book character on trial, and the kids have to apply for jobs. So there's like a whole job application. The hardest question on the job application is, what's your address? I don't know why kids do not know their address these days, but they're like, so I'm like, you have to learn your address because tomorrow you're going to put a job application and you're going to need to put it on there. They can apply to be like a courtroom worker. They can apply to be on the prosecution attorney, a defense attorney, or they can apply to be a witness in this case, or the defendant. And they have to explain why they would be good at these different roles. And then everyone gets their job. And then we have this whole like preparation days. And then we have a mock trial, and it's all like, it's so much fun. Like, kids come back and they remember those things. I mean, I did put it on YouTube, so anyone can go on my YouTube and see my mock trials.
Check it out.
You'll have to check it out on my YouTube channel. But, at the same time, they remember these experiences.
I'll be in the hallway.
Yeah.
In like a costume, and kids will be like, today the day you're doing measurement speedway? Or is today, because they like remember when they see you, like, oh, I remember doing that.
No, that is just amazing. And again, these are the experiences that make a difference for students. We think about students who are faced with all different types of challenges because of their backgrounds, whether their parents don't have the money to take them to spaces. I know my class, I do a Native American museum every year when we study Native American tribes, and we create all the artifacts for the museum exhibit. And the crazy thing is, the first year I'm in this title building, I want to do a museum, and I say like, we're going to make this museum exhibit, we're going to do this and this. And I'm looking at blank faces, and I realized most of my students had never been to a museum before. And so I'm like, we need to get a field trip where we actually go to a museum so I can see what this museum's about. We went to the Field Museum in Chicago. We did like the virtual tours of museums on the website. Then my students researched their Native American tribe. They built all the artifacts, the Kachina dolls and the dioramas and the slideshows. And they made the little like plaques to go with each artifact. Then we invited the whole school, and they were explaining their tribes, and the students were going from like exhibit to exhibit, and they're using all the words, and they were reinforcing like how people would give a tour on a museum and how you would explain things. And they're like, oh no, you can't touch the artifacts. It's on, touch artifacts in museums. I mean, think about the number of lessons they learned beyond just the content, right? And also how to cut and glue, which we know is a dying art for our students. But those immersive learning experiences are so important. So if a teacher wanted to get started, maybe they're like, you know what, I need some more immersive learning experiences in my book. What would be some steps that they could take to like help them get started? What would your advice be to them?
Okay, so I would say number one, first step is to pick a theme. It could be something like you just finished teaching about, like, okay, I just finished teaching about the human body. So now my theme is the human body. But it can also be kind of like you mentioned about the detective. So I'd say first is, pick a theme that you want an engaging way to review a topic. Then decorate the space. The environment really sets the stage for learning. It can be, you transform a whole room, or it can be something simple, like just a prop that you're bringing into your read aloud, or a costume or something. And I think it can be intimidating for teachers because teachers are afraid of the cost, or they see this idea on the social media and they're like, oh, wow, like that looks really expensive, or looks like I would spend more time setting it up than it would take to actually do it with kids. So I think just always looking for ways, like when you're at Dollar Tree, I feel like my mind is constantly like, what could I use here at Dollar Tree? Or I'm at my sister's house who have girls, and I'm like, oh, could I borrow this for my fairy tale unit? And just always looking, how can I reuse things? But I have written some grants for some of my like bigger ideas to bring them to life. Amazon wish list. Sometimes parents are willing to donate things. So definitely just deciding how you're going to bring it to life with the
And you talked about partnering with the community too, right? You said like you called your local hospital and said, hey, we're doing this project. They just dropped this stuff off, you know?
Yeah.
Businesses want to support students.
Yeah. Yes. I've definitely learned to like, no problem begging for things, you know, they don't usually say no to a teacher. So, yeah. So after that, after you have some stuff, just think of activities that could go along with your theme. You really don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's so many great ideas out there on, you know, everywhere. You can think of ideas that could go along with whatever your theme is. I would just say make sure that it's not fluff. You know, you want it to go along with your theme, but you want it to be rigorous and worthwhile. You want it to connect to your standards and your curriculum, but also be engaging. So just making sure that it's something worthwhile doing, but goes along with your theme. And then I love to build the anticipation, you know, kind of tease the information, give them clues maybe leading up to it. You can send home like a countdown or engage kids in like a mystery of what we're going to be doing or a challenge that they can kind of unveil on that day that you're doing your immersive activity.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd also just say that simple ideas can count too. Just finding a few places. And I feel like once you start doing a little bit of it, it kind of becomes addicting and you realize, oh, my kids are so highly engaged, which makes your whole day, like their engagement is high. So classroom management is easier. And then you're like, wow, I want to do this more. We just finished learning this. How can I plan another day that's going to help them just have a deeper understanding and better engagement?
And it's fun for you, you know,
Well,
for teachers, like, why shouldn't we have fun at school? We love our jobs, right? We all want to go to work every day at a place that's fun, where our kids are just mesmerized and fully engaged. I mean, why not, right? It makes all of our jobs, our days better. You know, we should all be able to enjoy those moments. So kind of, you know, with all the activities you've had, I'm sure you have some success stories. I love a good like student success story. Somebody who just turned around and they were like super engaged in something that you did, and now their whole experience of school has changed. Inspire us.
Yeah. Okay. So when I was thinking of one, I really think of, I had a student years ago, a little boy who, man, he just could not understand the difference between fiction and nonfiction. And all year long in first grade, you know, we kind of just review it all year long. And he just, man, by the end of the year, still was not getting it. And we had a book tasting bistro that year where we kind of reviewed all the different genres that we had taught. The room was like a restaurant. We had, you know, like coffee shop type music. They sipped on lemonade, and each table had like a different genre to taste, and they took it off a tray, and they could just kind of find the goal of it was just kind of maybe find a new genre or a different type of book that you're interested in. And they would have a menu where they would write down like the books that they really liked tasting and rate them and different things. And by the end of the activity, I overheard him like correctly referring, like, this is historical fiction and this is realistic fiction. And it was like, oh my goodness, not only did he like really understand fiction and nonfiction, but like he was using like terminology that we don't even expect first graders to master in first grade. So that was one that definitely sticks out. And this boy is such a like reader now. I see him at aftercare, just always his nose like stuck in a book. And when I'm picking my son up from, I just feel like I always see him stuck in a book, and I just feel like the book tasting bistro is what finally, like, he just decided I'm a reader, and kind of fell in love with reading and understanding those different genres and finding what he liked to read.
And like it brought the whole experience alive for him, right? Like he understood that all the books on the tray had something in common, right? And when you're actually like holding it, touching it, experiencing it, smelling it, tasting it, metaphorically, hope they didn't have all those books in their mouths, right? But like, you know, they're like, oh my gosh, this is now making sense. That full body learning environment makes sense for kids. And I just love it when kids find a piece of themselves, you know, in our classrooms. I mean, I think those are the stories like we educators like hold in our hearts forever. I know there's this one kid in my class, he struggles with reading and writing. I didn't know what I was going to do to get him engaged, but he saw this box fan in the corner of my room and he was like, can I put that fan together? I just ordered it off of, you know, whatever, like one of the stores. And I was like, sure. He just got to business. He had like screwdriver and you have this, and you have that. And he's putting this fan together. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid like can put stuff together. And I remember I wrote a grant and got this little electric car, and I could only pick a few kids because the car was so small to like work on building it. And I picked him. 8 years later, he wrote me a letter. Thank you for picking me to build the model car. Thank you for teaching me and my mom about engineers and what STEM is. And then his mom told me a few years after that she got back in touch with me through Facebook and said, he's an electrical engineer in the Marines. And I was just like, what? Like, I know, it's like the moment, like I said, yes, you can put together this fan. I could build this like car. Like there's such a small memory in my mind, but a defining moment in our children's minds. And we let them do things hands-on, things that are real. The only thing I would add to your recipe for like when we're creating like immersive learning experiences, think about how to add an element of something they would do in real life that they don't get to experience because of their age or because of where they live, things like that. I think that always brings another element to life. Like you're getting this experience that's beyond this classroom. Like this is what engineers do. This is what scientists do. This is what doctors do. Or this is a place we can travel to imaginary that I know would be really hard for most of us to get to because, it's expensive or, we're too young to get in the airplane all by ourselves and pick our own vacation destinations. But because they make kids feel like I'm mature. And this is a glimpse to what my life could be. And
yes,
yes. All right. So I always end on this note. If you could pick a student success playlist of songs or quotes or stories that inspire you to teach, what would that be? And you will say?
Okay. So I had a administrator say to me pretty early on in my career, Jessica, if someone had to buy a ticket to your classroom, would they want to buy one? And that's always stuck with me, especially in relation to like making learning fun. Like, would your kids want to buy a ticket to wake up to come to your class? Or would they want a refund on their ticket? Like, I want to keep my students guessing and I want to spark that curiosity and for learning. And I think teaching early elementary really sets the stage for their attitude about learning and school and education for the rest of their education. If I can make learning fun and kind of let them begin their education with like, I love school. I love learning. My teacher keeps things fun and engaging. And I never know what, I never know what she has up her sleeve. And it's so fun and exciting. And then I hope that they'll carry that with them. And I also hope that it'll help them have a deeper understanding. Like they have such a deeper understanding because first grade implemented these culminating days where they really understood and mastered what, the standards were. And then third grade can take it to the next level. And so I want kids to have to want to buy that ticket to my classroom. So I always love that quote.
You are absolutely 100% creating an environment that kids want to buy the ticket. They want the ticket. They're like begging for the ticket. They're in line for the ticket.
I hope so.
Absolutely, because it's so obvious you make learning fun and you make it engaging and you create an environment where kids can show up as themselves and have all these deep, rich experiences. I'm sure it caters to all different types of learners and it sticks and it's memorable and special. And that's exactly what an equity-focused teacher leader does, right? They create experiences that help every child feel successful in their classroom. They create experiences that help every student fall in love with learning and make them feel special. So no doubt in my mind, you are definitely an equity teacher leader. And it's really excited to have you today to hear all about everything that you're doing. If people want to get in touch with you, where should they go to reach out to you?
Yeah, they can send me an email. And I also have an Instagram. It is at the class to be, B-E-E, like a bumblebee.
Oh, cute. I love it. And we'll drop all of that information in the comments section below or in the, description. And it's just been so much fun hanging out with you today. I could definitely see why you are the 24-25 Milken Award winner.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was fun. It was great to meet you and get to chat with you. And I loved the episodes that I've listened to of your podcast. It's so great to hear from different teachers in Illinois.
Yes, I hope it really brings everyone together and feels like, we're all kind of in our own classrooms, in our own spaces, but we are all moving the needle together as a unified group. There's so many amazing teacher leaders out there just need to hear what they're doing in their classroom and share those ideas and get to know them. Maybe we'll all feel a little bit more united and celebrated and supported in this field. So thank you for sharing your expertise.